Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 8 Part 33 based on novel. So let's start. The Demon Sound Mountain was situated at the deepest part of the 10,000 Beasts mountain range. It was unusually steep and was covered with black trees that were also known as sound trees. These trees were quite mysterious and they had the same effects as a loudspeaker and were able to magnify a sound to many times its original volume. Each and every moment, there would be a sharp sound being emitted from the entire mountain. Hence, this mountain was termed the Demon Sound Mountain. There was a stone hall standing at the top of the Demon Sound Mountain. The stone hall was somewhat dark red in color. Its fresh blood sediment-like color gave one an extremely pressurizing feeling. When one looked at the large hall, it was possible to see a dark golden-skinned middle-aged man seated on top of a dense white bone throne. That man's eyes were sunken. His mouth revealed a somewhat unusual shape, causing his face to appear extremely shady and insidious. Has the owl sonic formation been set up? The middle-aged man's shady eyes looked towards two figures in front of him before he asked indifferently. "Sir, please relax. All the human head owls have moved out. Once anyone invades this place, the owl sonic formation will be activated immediately." Amongst the two of them, the man wearing a leopard skin parted his mouth and laughed. "Sir, is that feminine-looking man really that frightening? We have already hid in the Demon Sound Mountain for a couple of days without going out." The other large man with a fierce face curled his mouth and involuntarily asked, "Humph, that fellow might appear extremely fragile on the surface, but he has likely reached the advanced profound life stage. If we really end up fighting, even I am no match for him." That middle-aged man coldly chided. "Had I known earlier, I would have directly crippled that large fellow that day. All these problems would not have appeared." That man wearing a leopard skin had a dark ruthlessness flashing over his eyes as he said, "Sir, what should we do now? Don't tell me that we can only continue to hide in the Demon Sound Mountain." The middle-aged man leaned against the backrest of his chair. A dense dark smile was lifted on his face. "Relax, Yuan Gate, and I have some history. This time around, I have already sent a message and invited an elder. Once he arrives, that fellow will not be able to throw his weight around." Those two men quietly sighed in relief upon hearing these words. They were just about to speak when a hurried sharp cry was suddenly being transmitted from outside the large hall. The sharp cry had just been transmitted when the three people in the large hall had a change in expression. That middle-aged man suddenly got up. His body flashed and he rushed out of the large hall. After which, his eyes were shady as they looked towards the sky outside of the mountain. There were 4 figures suspended in the sky there. "It's you again, why won't you leave me alone?" That middle-aged man's eyes were dark and gold as he stared at the handsome man amongst the 4 before speaking in a dense manner. At this moment, everyone within the mountain was alarmed. Immediately, waves after waves of rushing wind sound appeared. Soon after, many figures gathered and landed on the mountaintop one after another. This lineup is really quite grand. Lin Dong surveyed this Demon Sound Mountain. His gaze swept over it before sensing that there were countless unusual fluctuations on the mountain. These fluctuations were extremely slight and there was a vague ear-piercing sonic wave being emitted. They were likely the human head owls that little Martin had mentioned. "You have injured my brother. How can I let you off so easily? Yellow Golden Ghost Owl, why don't you kill your 2 subordinates and I will forget about this matter? What do you say?" Little Martin spoke with a twinkly smile. His smile contained a cunning dark chillness. Those 2 people standing behind the yellow golden ghost owl immediately had a momentary unnaturalness in their expressions when they heard little Martin's words. Although their expressions were normal, their eyes involuntarily glanced at the yellow golden ghost owl's back. "Do you really think that this king is so stupid?" The yellow golden ghost owl's eyes turned chilly as he laughed coldly. "You are right, I really thought you are so stupid." Little Martin laughed. His appearance was as though he wanted to anger the other party to death. "You have sharp tongue. Wait until you have the ability to break my owl sonic formation before you speak." Otherwise, you will have to flee in shame like in the past. The yellow golden ghost owl's eyes were dark and cold. However, he was also aware that with his current strength, he would not be able to match up against little Martin in a head-on battle. Immediately, he waved his hand. The black trees in the entire mountain immediately swayed. Soon after, numerous dark and ugly demonic beasts, which appeared to have a human head, climbed out. They covered the entire mountain and looked extremely frightening. These human head owls had just appeared when they extended their heads into the sound trees. After which, their sharp cries suddenly resounded over this entire place. Countless black sonic waves spread across the Demon Sound Mountain in all directions. Finally, it became like a sound web that covered the entire mountain. The black sonic waves were just like numerous enormous black snakes that were slowly wiggling around this mountain. These black sonic waves might appear quiet, but Lin Dong's group could sense a shocking destructive strength from within. If there was only one human head owl, it was hardly worth anything. However, there were currently 10,000 of them gathered together. Hence, their combined strength was quite frightening. Therefore, when little Martin saw that enormous black sonic wave web, his eyes also hardened. Immediately, they quickly pulled back. I thought that you had a trick up your sleeve. It turns out you are here just to embarrass yourself. That yellow golden ghost owl involuntarily mocked when he saw little Martin retreating. His subordinates behind him also laughed along with him. However, just when they were laughing, they saw a young lady carrying a fiery red ancient zither walking out from their group. The young lady was wearing white clothes and she had a pretty face. A pair of clear bright eyes appeared like a lake while her black ponytail fell in front of her chest. That innocent manner caused those fellows on the Demon Sound Mountain to be stunned. Most of those present were ruthless people, whose hands were dyed in blood and they had done many terrible things. Hence, their eyes could not hide an obscene expression when they saw such a juicy young lady. Soon after, whistling noises permeated the air as some foul languages spread. Ha ha, do you really think that we will show mercy to such a juicy young lady? Hee hee, we can capture her to serve you, sir. These fellows are actually here for the express purpose of delivering a woman her. A rich killing intent involuntarily flashed across Lin Dong's heart when he heard the foul language that permeated the place. Immediately, his eyes were just like blades as they swept over the mountain, imprinting in his mind the faces of those who were laughing the hardest. Boom! Compared to Lin Dong's icy cold expression, Ying Huan Huan remained unusually calm. She directly sat down while suspended in mid-air. That fiery red ancient zither in her embrace was gently placed in front of her. After which, her seemingly flawless hands gently landed. Immediately, a phoenix cry resounded over this entire place in a loud and clear manner. The soft cry resounded over the place and the many foul languages that were present on the Demon Sound Mountain suddenly halted. Even that yellow golden ghost owl also had a sudden change in expression while uneasiness surged within his heart. The phoenix cry resounded and a monstrous fiery red light swept out from Ying Huan Huan's body like a volcano. Finally, a crimson phoenix flapped its wings and rushed out from the heavenly phoenix zither amidst the zither music. It lingered in the sky above Ying Huan Huan's head. At the same time, a somewhat shocking fluctuation was being emitted from within the crimson phoenix's body. Pure Yuan treasure. The yellow golden ghost owl on the Demon Sound Mountain looked at the crimson phoenix that lingered. His eyes immediately shrunk as he involuntarily cried out in shock. Correct. Too bad there is no prize. Ying Huan Huan raised her head. She smiled gently at the shocked yellow golden ghost owl. Immediately, her finger suddenly moved over the zither string. The crimson phoenix that lingered in the sky also let out a cry toward the sky. Its enormous wings were suddenly flapped. Immediately, a bright red sonic wave swept out. This phoenix cry also came into contact with the zither music that was being emitted from the heavenly phoenix zither. Finally, it appeared to transform into a monstrous flame that directly whistled towards the owl sonic formation that covered the Demon Sound Mountain. Bang bang bang. The bright red fire sound wave swept out in all directions. Finally, it collided onto the owl sonic formation that was formed by 10,000 human head owls. Immediately, Lin Dong's group saw that the seemingly black large python-like sound wave collapsed almost instantly. It struggled and transformed into nothingness within the rising flame. That sound formation that thwarted little Martin was torn apart almost instantly. The human head owls that covered the mountains also appeared to have met with their nemesis when their large formation was broken. Their bodies trembled before they emitted a bang and actually exploded into clusters of bloody fog. The yellow golden ghost owl and the rest, who were laughing in a proud and arrogant manner previously, had a drastic change in expression when they saw the human head owls exploding into a bloody mist. It is indeed worthy of being a pure Yuan treasure. Lin Dong observed this scene with a rich shock in his eyes. This pure Yuan treasure's strength was actually this frightening. Although part of the reason was because they countered each other, Lin Dong was aware that if he was to fight with Ying Huan Huan when she had the heavenly phoenix thither, there was no guarantees that he would emerge victorious. "It is your turn." Ying Huan Huan turned her head around. The pretty face, which was still calm earlier, appeared a little pale after she had used the heavenly phoenix thither. At the same time, an icy chillness spread. Immediately, she clenched her silver teeth and viciously said, "Lin Dong, if you do not kill all those fellows who had mocked me previously, I will tell father and elder sister that you bullied me when I return." Lin Dong was instantly stunned speechless when he heard her words. "Let's go." While Lin Dong was still startled, the cold laughter of little Martin rang out in his ears. In the next instant, an exceptionally majestic and boundless fluctuation instantaneously swept out from within little Martin's body. The fluctuation was like black clouds that enveloped the skies before turning into a thick pressure that slowly filled the area. "Grandpa Martin will now let you guys laugh your fill." As the majestic aura swept outwards, a bloodthirsty look appeared on little Martin's handsome face. He had been extremely infuriated by the demonic Sound Mountain's array over this period of time, hence, after breaking the array, his anger had thoroughly exploded. A purplish-black glow that blotted the sky started screaming out of little Martin's palm as he directly patted down, smashing a few unlucky fellows into a fleshy pulp. In the next moment, ice suffused with a purplish-black glow locked onto the golden ghost owl who was currently showing a rather ugly expression. "You yellow-furred devil, let's see where can you hide now?" Little Martin said with a sinister smile. With a shift of his body, he directly appeared in front of the golden ghost owl like a spectre, as a purplish-black spiral containing a frightening fluctuation exploded forward like lightning. In response to little Martin's brutal offensive, the golden ghost owl cut a sorry figure as it promptly retreated. He was after all weaker than little Martin by a whole level. In a direct one-on-one confrontation, it naturally was no match for the former. However, now that the formation had been broken, he had no place to escape, and could only brace himself and fight while hoping that the helpers from the Yuan Gate would be able to make it in time. Roar! When little Martin attacked, Little Flame also suddenly raised his head and howled, causing his already sturdy steel tower-like body to inflate another fold. A scarlet glow started to appear and flowed on the surface of his body. This was obviously an extremely strong body-enhancing martial art. Bang! While his body continued to swell, Little Flame shot towards the demonic Sound Mountain like a cannonball with a stamp of his foot. With his scarlet eyes and ferocious appearance, there was no longer any trace of the previous simple and honest expression. "You be careful." Upon seeing the two of them take action, Lin Dong did not hesitate any longer. After saying a single sentence to Ying Huan Huan, the green dragon wings surfaced once again on his back. He instantly transformed into a green flash and shot towards the demonic Sound Mountain. Lin Dong was like a ray of light as he shot towards the peak of the mountain. With a dragonified arm, he wielded the black tree as he created a path of carnage. Those whom he had remembered earlier had their bodies viciously swatted by the heavy black tree until they could only howl in pain due to their now blooded bodies. Overall, only the higher echelons of the demonic Sound Mountain were considered slightly strong. Although the Golden Ghost Owl and the two great generals were capable of putting up a fight, the others were of hardly any use. Therefore, when the Lin Dong trio killed their way towards the mountain like wolves and tigers, the fellows that had seemed fierce and malicious fled faster than rabbits, just like a beaten army in total collapse. Lin Dong smashed another previously dirty-mouthed fellow with the tree trunk, causing him to vomit blood as he was swatted away. Just as he was about to take another step, Lin Dong's gaze suddenly focused as his other hand instantaneously transformed into a green dragon arm. Immediately after, his hand clenched tightly into a fist as he sent a punch rumbling forward. Bang! In a flash, two fists that contained vigorous energies ferociously collided with each other. A visible energy ripple rapidly spread out, causing the dead leaves on the ground to be shaken and turned to dust. As the force dispersed, Lin Dong's body trembled faintly before he retreated half a step backwards. As for the person facing him, he stumbled and retreated multiple steps before dispelling the strength that had entered his body. Raising his head, Lin Dong looked towards the person in front of him. With a body covered in a robe made of leopard pelt, he had a tall and sturdy physique with a deep scar on his forehead, making him look quite sinister. Moreover, the unrestrained fluctuation from him caused Lin Dong's eyebrows to raise. Given such a fluctuation, he should have already reached the 9 Yuan Nirvana stage, however it was substantially weaker than Wang Yang. Son of a bitch, you killed so many people from my demonic sound mountain. Leopard grandfather will wring your head off and turn it into my piss bucket. The man wearing a leopard pelt stared at Lin Dong with a fierce and sinister expression on his face. Superficial 9 Yuan Nirvana stage. Lin Dong sent a smile towards the man in a leopard pelt while shaking his head. Although the person before him was at the 9 Yuan Nirvana stage, from the previous exchange, Lin Dong could feel that he was even weaker than Yao Ling, let alone comparing him to Wang Yang. An obstinate brat, look and see if your father won't rip you to shreds. Without another word, the face of the leopard pelt-wearing male turned chilly. Vigorous Yuan power rushed forth from within his body. In the next moment, he stamped his foot and shot towards Lin Dong. A swift and fierce fist wind of the leopard pelt-wearing male swept towards Lin Dong, who immediately grabbed his arm with a green dragon arm. You still dare to mess with me with such puny strength? Said Lin Dong with a faint smile. His gaze suddenly turned chilly as boundless energy erupted like flood waters. With a ferocious tug, he caused the leopard pelt-wearing male to directly lose balance. In the next instant, Lin Dong flung his leg out, which viciously landed on the man's chest. Bang! Under the gazes of the surrounding demonic sound mountain men, the leopard pelt-wearing man was flung hundreds of meters away, smashing trees into dust as he crashed into them along the way. After experiencing fights with formidable 9 Yuan Nirvana stage experts like Yao Ling and Wang Yang, the leopard pelt-wearing male truly made Lin Dong somewhat sigh in regret. Although they were all of the same stage, the difference between the strong and the weak was very clear. Lin Dong truly did not know how this fellow trained to such a level. Roar! In the distance, the leopard pelt-wearing male struggled and stood up. Wiping the fresh blood off from the corners of his mouth, his eyes started to turn scarlet. Soon after, he raised his head and let out a howl. Instantly, his body started to rapidly squirm, before finally transforming into a giant golden leopard. Bringing along a foul wind, he maniacally pounced at Lin Dong. Lin Dong calmly watched the giant golden leopard flying towards him without the slightest intention of withdrawing. His arms transformed into dragon arms, as he grasped the black tree and gave a ferocious swing. Bang bang bang. The surrounding demonic sound mountain men watched the intense battle between the giant golden leopard and Lin Dong. Yet, the leopard was unable to gain any upper hand, and was being forced to retreat time after time. Turning their gazes, they looked at the other fights taking place. The Golden Ghost Owl and the other great general were also being forced into an extremely sorry state. Such a situation was not good. A few of the men from the demonic sound mountain looked at each other and were thinking of stealthily fleeing away. When the trees topple, the monkeys will scatter. From the situation in front of them, it was obvious that they could no longer hold the demonic sound mountain. The entire demonic sound mountain had currently sunk into an extreme state of chaos as rumbling and intense sounds transmitted endlessly all around. The entire mountaintop shook as if it was shattering and crumbling as a bloody scent soared into the skies. As the demonic sound mountain descended into chaos, three figures appeared in a flash on the peak of a far-away mountain, while their gazes stared indifferently at the demonic sound mountain. Hey, looks like the demonic sound mountain has already been broken by other people. That bastard is truly useless, can't even endure just this bit, These three were naturally the three from the Yuan Gate that had appeared previously. As for the person speaking, it was the handsome man in white. He smiled and said as he looked at the demonic sound mountain that reeked of blood. "Senior Marshal Uncle Jiang, do we take action and help?" Another man dressed in black said with a grin on his face. "Let a few more die before we take action." In front of the two men stood an old man dressed in brown. With an indifferent tone, he said, "There is an earth core spiritual brewing saliva hidden within the demonic sound mountain. That blockhead assumed that no one knew about it, and even invited me over. Since we have came here, let's also take that treasure away. This kind of heavenly treasure should be given to our Yuan Gate. Xie Yang, go take care of all those people that have fled the demonic sound mountain in secret. I don't want the news here to spread." "Relax, Senior Marshal Uncle Jiang, none of them will escape," the male in black replied. With a smile, he proceeded to transform into a ray of light as he headed into the forest. "Shinyun, go and take the zither from the hands of that girl." "Ha ha, I truly can't believe that I am actually able to see a pure Yuan treasure here. Looks like even the heavens are helping our Yuan Gate," the old man dressed in brown commanded with a casual smile as he pointed towards Ying Huan Huan, who was standing outside of the demonic sound mountain. "Yes." The male in white gave a reply while giving a faint smile. As he gazed into the distance, he gave a frivolous smile. "A little beauty, eh? Let me handle this." Following the appearance of his voice, his figure had already disappeared in a strange manner. As the two beside him left, the old man dressed in brown turned his gaze towards the top of the demonic sound mountain, where little Martin and the golden ghost owl were ferociously battling. "A person of profound life stage, huh? Looks like tidying up this matter will be a little troublesome." Ying Huan Huan watched the incomparably chaotic situation on the mountain from the skies outside of the Demon Sound Mountain. A pair of delicate hands gently landed on the heavenly phoenix zither from time to time. She would lend a hand should the situation turn bad. Although she would be greatly exhausted from using the heavenly phoenix zither with her current strength, she did not have the time to bother about such an issue at this moment. The young lady quietly watched the Demon Sound Mountain. Soon after, she discovered that her help seemed to be unnecessary. The Lin Dong trio had already turned the entire Demon Sound Mountain upside down. They had completely obtained the upper hand against their respective opponents. Ying Huan Huan quietly sighed in relief when she saw this scene. However, just as she was about to withdraw her finger from the heavenly phoenix zither, her eyes suddenly hardened. She suddenly turned around, only to see a handsome white-clothed man standing there with a smile. "Who are you?" Ying Huan Huan's face turned slightly cold. Her large eyes were filled with caution. "Miss, there's no need to be afraid. I am Shinyun from Yuan Gate, one of the 8 Soul Generals." The white-clothed man laughed. "Yuan Gate." Ying Huan Huan's already slightly cold face turned completely to ice when she heard these 2 words. She sneered, "So it is actually a Yuan Gate dog. This lady does not have the time to chat idly with you. Get lost." "Hee, little beauty, it is no good to speak in such a manner." Shinyun was clearly startled by this sudden sneer of Ying Huan Huan. He immediately frowned slightly. The corners of his mouth lifted to form a playful smile, as his body moved and approached Ying Huan Huan in a ghost-like manner. He extended his hand in an attempt to lift the young lady's chin. Boom! However, chilliness surged within those large eyes of Ying Huan Huan the moment he extended his hand. Her fingers instantly strummed the zither strings. A fiery red brilliance followed by a wild and violent sound wave viciously blasted at Shinyun. Shinyun's expression changed slightly when the wild and violent sound wave swept out. His toes pressed on the empty space and an afterimage appeared. Immediately, this afterimage was forcefully shattered by the sound wave. What an unruly little beauty. However, this will be more interesting now. Shinyun's body surfaced a short distance away. He smilingly looked at the icy cold face of Ying Huan Huan and softly said, "This pure Yuan treasure is indeed powerful. However, I wonder just how many times you can activate it with your current strength. Enough to kill you." Ying Huan Huan's face was slightly pale. She immediately laughed coldly as her delicate hand landed on the zither string. Suddenly, she pulled at it and a clear phoenix cry once again sounded out. A pair of enormous fiery red wings extended from the heavenly phoenix zither. After which, they were accompanied by a shocking sound wave as they violently swatted at Shinyun. Shinyun did not dare to underestimate the strength of this heavenly phoenix zither. With a clench of his fist, a black stone seal transformed into a black waterfall that collided heavily against the fiery red wings. Bang! A loud and clear sound reverberated over the place. The black waterfall was forcefully reflected back. However, Shinyun had borrowed this moment to once again withdraw explosively and pull away from the offensive range of the wings. Shinyun was clearly extremely cunning. He was aware of how exhausting activating the pure Yuan treasure would be given Ying Huan Huan's strength. Hence, he did not face her head-on. Clearly, he was planning to drag things out until Ying Huan Huan had completely run out of steam. It must be said that his plan was indeed quite effective. If Ying Huan Huan's condition was at her peak at this moment, she might still be able to put up a good fight with him by using the heavenly phoenix zither. However, breaking the Demon Sound Mountains formation earlier had greatly exhausted Ying Huan Huan despite it being done in a seemingly casual fashion. Hence, Ying Huan Huan's aura began to wither at a shocking rate due to Shinyun's strategy. While her aura withered, the speed at which her delicate hands plucked at the zither strings also became increasingly slower, while her attacks undoubtedly lost their earlier sharpness. Shinyun was clearly extremely experienced in combat. He had immediately sensed that Ying Huan Huan's attacks had slowed. A cold smile flashed across his eyes as his body suddenly shot out explosively. Ying Huan Huan watched Shinyun, who was once again shooting explosively towards her. She clenched her silver teeth and was about to pluck at the zither strings again. That friend of yours appears to be unable to endure any longer. Shinyun's soft laughter was suddenly transmitted into her ears the moment Ying Huan Huan's fingers were about to move. Ying Huan Huan's fingers suddenly froze for a moment. Her peripheral vision involuntarily drifted towards the spot on the Demon Sound Mountain where Lin Dong was located. However, she did not see the situation that Shinyun described when her eyes looked over. Soon after, Ying Huan Huan's heart suddenly sunk. A figure had already approached her just as her fingers were about to pluck at the zither again. "Little beauty, you are still a little too inexperienced." Shinyun laughed softly. Immediately, a formidable palm force landed on Ying Huan Huan's shoulder without any hesitation. Bang! Boom! Two sounds appeared almost simultaneously. Ying Huan Huan's figure flew backwards. While her figure was flying backwards, her fingers moved across the zither strings. A wild and violent sonic wave also smashed onto Shinyun's body at lightning speed. Shinyun rapidly retreated. Vigorous Yuan power wildly surged on his body. By the time he had stabilized his body, his clothes had already become rather tattered, while a bloody scar had appeared on his chest. Shinyun's expression darkened almost immediately when he saw his ragged appearance. He quickly raised his head to look at the pale face of Ying Huan Huan. His body suddenly rushed out. In a flash, he appeared in front of Ying Huan Huan. Majestic Yuan power whistled as his palm viciously slapped downwards. Lin Dong's green dragon arm swung the black tree. Its terrifying power directly caused the air to explode. It left behind an afterimage as it unceremoniously smashed ruthlessly onto the body of the giant gold leopard that was charging at him. A deep sound spread across the forest. The giant gold leopard was ruthlessly smashed into the ground. Numerous enormous cracks instantly spread outwards from under its body. After flattening the giant gold leopard, Lin Dong was just about to make his next move when he suddenly seemed to have sensed something. His expression abruptly changed as he turned his head. The scene of Ying Huan Huan being sent flying in the distant sky was reflected in his eyes. Lin Dong's expression turned completely dark in an instant when he saw the young lady's delicate figure shooting backwards. His body rushed out. However, a pain was suddenly transmitted from his right leg. The giant gold leopard had actually ferociously bit him. The violence within Lin Dong's eyes erupted at this instant. Green light surged over his legs and they directly transformed into green dragon legs. After which, a leg was lifted and violently stomped downwards onto the giant gold leopard with a heavy mountain-like strength. A series of incomparably deep sounds echoed in the forest, while an enormous crack swiftly extended. By the time Lin Dong's foot landed, the surface of the ground within a dozen feet had already crumbled, while the giant gold leopard's head was stomped into meat paste. Fresh blood seeped into the ground, forming an extremely dark and bloody scene. Lin Dong stomped the giant gold leopard that the leopard skin man had turned into. He grabbed the latter in one swift motion and suddenly rushed out explosively with a flap of the green dragon wings on his back. Little beauty, obediently hand over the ancient zither. Shinyun gazed at the pale-faced Ying Huan Huan in front of him. He extended his hand and smilingly said. Ying Huan Huan stared at him with ice-cold eyes. She did not utter a single word. Her fingers landed on the zither strings, but her mouth ended up emitting a muffled groan just as she was about to strum. A trace of blood seeped out from the corner of her mouth. The strength within her body had already been completely exhausted when she used the heavenly phoenix zither earlier. Thus, she ended up suffering some backlash when she tried to forcefully activate it again. How stubborn. Since this is the case, I can only destroy this flower. Such a pity, Shinyun chuckled. He clenched his hand as a long black spear appeared in a flash. After which, a cold light flickered over it and a monstrous ripple directly rushed out from the long spear and pierced towards Ying Huan Huan. The heavenly phoenix zither in Ying Huan Huan's embrace was placed horizontally as it was used to block the tip of the spear. However, the vast and mighty strength of the latter still caused a sweetness to be transmitted from her throat. The smile on Shinyun's face grew even wider when his spear was blocked. His body moved as the tip of the spear was tilted slightly. This time around, it drew an extremely tricky arc and pierced towards Ying Huan Huan's brow. Bang! However, a hurried rushing wind sound that carried a dense bloody scent suddenly shot over the moment this spear of Shinyun thrust forward. His expression sunk slightly. The tip of the spear turned and it pierced forward explosively. After which, it penetrated the bloody pile of flesh that used to be a giant gold leopard. Boom! Shinyun appeared to be slightly startled when the spear pierced through the giant gold leopard. His pupils suddenly shrunk in the next moment. The giant gold leopard in front of him suddenly exploded. A dragon leg that was covered with green scales tore through the air. It was accompanied by fresh blood that seemingly permeated the sky as it came smashing down at lightning speed. Finally, the leg was ruthlessly swung onto his body in front of Shinyun's face, which had undergone a drastic change. Bang! A deep sound echoed outwards. Shinyun was sent flying 100 meters back by this kick. He steadied his body as a trace of blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. Skillful. Shinyun laughed. His eyes sized up the skinny young figure that had appeared in the sky. Lin Dong, be careful. He is one of the 8 soul generals of Yuan Gate. Ying Huan Huan's heart relaxed when she saw the figure that had appeared in front of her. However, she also hurriedly warned him. Lin Dong's expression was dark and stern as he stared at Shinyun. Immediately, the corners of his mouth slowly lifted into a savage smile. There is no need to worry. He will be a dead dog very soon. This video will end here.